Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. So this is what if banished Naruto become godlike in Chunin exam. This is part 2, and if you want more then please leave a like, share and subscribe. Let's get in the video. Fire Country. Konoha Hokage's office. Despite the heartache and pain from losing the closest person she had ever had, Senju Tsunade sat at her desk, constantly fighting down the large number of tears threatening to form in her eyes. To the side next to the window sat the Toad elders. Fukasaku and Shima, though Fukasaku appeared to have no readable emotion on his face. In front of her stood the Konoha 11, minus Naruto, Asuma, Kakashi and Yamato, who appeared to be very saddened at the news they had heard. For some it was for no other reason than the fact that they heard possibly one of the strongest people they had ever encountered had been defeated and killed by one of his own student. For others it was the fact that the man had been with them for a short while and, though the girls hated his perverted nature, respected him for the strength he had wielded. But for most it was the fact that they all knew Naruto wouldn't take this news lying down. Thankfully some good news has come to us as well, Tsunade said, getting their attention. It appears from Jiraiya's last Toad mail that Orochimaru was killed by Sasuke and he is now going after his brother Itachi, she explained. So he's not returning, Sakura said as a statement more than a question. The Hokage shook her head before continuing, no, he's not. From the window Fukasaku spoke up, catching their attention. I'm afraid the Toads could not be allied with Konoha any longer, since the only one my son Gamabunta will accept as a summoner is that blonde boy, and since he is exiled from here, us Toads no longer have any attachments to this place. Everyone in the room looked shocked at the elder Toad, though he merely nodded towards Tsunade. Once we leave here it will be for the last time, Hokage Dono. The blonde woman clenched her fists, knowing that the last of Jiraiya she had would be gone after the Toad elders left, just like she had lost everything of Naruto. Before she could utter a response there was a sudden poof of smoke and a medium-sized red-black toad appeared in the office. Ah! The toad exclaimed upon seeing Fukasaku. Settle down Kichi-chan, Shima calmed the young toad. But ma, I just got back from talking with the key toad. This surprised both ma and pa, though everyone else in the room heard. Apparently Naruto now has the key and has used it, he explained further. Is there any danger from the containment seal? Fukasaku asked, alarmed. The key appears to have restored the seal to its original design, but that's not why I'm here, Gamakichi spoke quickly. I came to tell you that Naruto knows about Iro-Sennin being killed. Apparently Jiratora-sama told him and Naruto destroyed everything in sight because of it. Fukasaku asked in a serious voice, where is he now? Hunting the Akatsuki leader. I think he's heading for Rain Country, though he should be passing the edge of Fire Country to get there, the Toad Prince answered truthfully. Sasuke will have to take that route too if he wants to locate his brother, Shino commented in monotone. Shushu? Sakura asked. Tsunade nodded, I know, all of you are to head out after Naruto and Sasuke. Though be careful if and when you confront them, I doubt they will come quietly. Understatement, Kakashi muttered, remembering his last skirmish with his former blonde student. Fire Country. Forest. Naruto and Yujito rode on Tsukino's back at high velocity through the large forest en route to Rain Country, and though Yujito hadn't said anything, she was deeply worried about her traveling companion. He had returned to the house back in Wave Country, with his cloths drenched in his own blood and his skin healing faster than it did before. None of the others saw him when he came in, but she did. He was angry. No, that's not true, he was downright pissed off. When he came in he told her to pack her things and that they were leaving after he took a shower. When asked why, he just said that his former teacher had been killed and he was going after the one responsible. They had said their goodbyes to the family before he summoned Tsukino and they took off towards Rain, only stopping to rest, eat and drink. That had been a week ago, and they were just now passing the edge of Fire Country. During that time Naruto had barely spoke throughout the entire trip and she was becoming increasingly worried about him with each passing moment. Hey Naruto, maybe we should stop to rest, Yujito spoke up, getting his attention. We won't be in any shape to fight if we keep moving like this. He looked at her over his shoulder and noticed that she looked fatigued from the continuous travel. He sighed before nodding in agreement, alright. Tsukino, sniff out the nearest town and take us there. The fox nodded lightly and changed its course slightly. After another 10 minutes they emerged from the forest onto a small grass field with what appeared to be a town on the other side of it. Tsukino dashed across the field before coming to a stop just outside town. The fox gave one look at the two as they dismounted. It's probably not a good idea to have you carry us into the village from here, Tsukino-chan, so we'll head on foot the rest of the way, Naruto told her. Tsukino nodded with a smile. Summon me when you need me, Naruto-kun, Yujito-chan. Aye, Yujito waved as the fox poofed away. When she turned to her blonde companion she noticed he was already heading into the town street. Hey Naruto. Wait up, she called after him, but he just kept walking as if he hadn't heard her. Naruto, she clenched her fists before taking off after him. Can I help you? The receptionist at the local inn asked in greeting. Yes, we'd like a room please, just for the one night, Naruto answered, and the woman nodded with a smile. That will be, note. I have no idea how Japanese currency works. Naruto handed her the money and she took it before handing him the keys to the room. Have a nice day. As the two senin made their way towards their room, Yujito asked him, where did you get that kind of money? You're not a part of any village now, even if you are still a ninja, so you aren't getting paid. It's something I have left over from my training trip with Iro Senin, Naruto answered. Iro Senin? Yujito asked, confused by the title. The Gama Senin Jiraiya, Naruto answered, and she noticed his features tense before relaxing. He was the teacher you used to have that was killed. The Nico Senin asked as the two came to a stop in the hall. Yeah, Naruto answered with barely controlled rage showing in his eyes. He was like a grandfather to me, a perverted one, but still someone I held dear, said the Kitsune Senin. Yujito noticed this of course and said, Naruto, you shouldn't try to bottle up your emotions like this. I know that, but I can't just sit around and let that bastard from Akatsuki get away with this. Naruto tried not to yell knowing they were in a hotel, but that didn't mean he didn't get his point across. I'll kill him and anyone else stupid enough to get in my way. He calmed himself and shook his head before turning to continue. Naruto, please don't let your anger contra. Yujito started only to stop when she was handed the keys. Go on ahead, I need to go blow off some steam. I'll be back later. The next moment Naruto was gone in several flashes of yellow light, indicating the number of flash steps he used. The Kumo Nin looked down at the hallway towards where the last flash originated, Naruto. The god of Flash walked through the crowded streets of the town, trying to locate the source of his unease. Ever since he had left Wave Country, he had been feeling a presence for lack of a better term. Like there was something following them or at least moving with them in the same direction, and it was beginning to frustrate him. Suddenly he felt a spike of chakra from far away and almost instantly snapped his head in its direction. They must have been waiting for us, Naruto thought, and set off walking towards the source of the chakra spike. Naruto silently walked through the crowd until he emerged from the town and continued onto the open field outside. Once he got to a hill near the center of the field, he looked over his shoulder and held out his hand to the side. His coat flapped in the wind as he whispered the words, come out. An object he recognized as a red three-bladed scythe erupted from the ground trying to catch him. It cut deep, but that made no difference as Naruto disappeared in a poof of smoke, indicating it was a clone. Damn, I forgot clones are your speciality, brat, Hayden said from a few feet away as he pulled on the chain attached to his scythe. He looked over his shoulder noticing the blonde was a few feet away and said in a crazed voice, pray to Jashin-sama that you can kill me first or you will die. Where is Pain? Naruto asked. Like I'll tell you, Hayden said with as his smile widened. The bird made out of clay appeared behind the blonde and flew towards him at high speed. Raikyu, there was a whisper before a ball of lightning fell from the sky and hit the clay bird. It fell lifeless to the ground a moment later as Yujito touched down behind Naruto, so they were back to back. Sorry I'm late. Don't worry about it, the Kitsune Senin told her as he saw the person who defeated Gaara was riding atop a large dragon made of clay. Deidara was his name if he remembered it correctly. Oh great, it's the gender-confused weirdo who kidnapped Gaara that one time. I am not a gender-confused weirdo. Yeah, the bomber shouted in rage at the insult, though Hayden appeared to be barely holding in his laughter. Hello. Do you see Toby? The two senin looked over to see a man wearing an Akatsuki cloak and an orange mask. He waved almost childishly getting their attention. Toby's over here. Seriously, what is that guy smoking? Yeah. Deidara asked, but Hayden just shrugged at the question. How the hell should I know? He's your partner, said the human reaper. Sage mode activated. The ground shook as both Naruto and Yujito shifted into their respective forms, releasing a small shockwave around them with a loud roar. Their now slitted eyes were shifting between the three Akatsuki members, and as he saw this, Deidara couldn't help himself. This will be a blast, yeah, the bomber shook with anticipation. Yujito cast her partner a look and saw that his eyes were seemingly glued to the dragon rider above them. Flashback no jutsu begin. I'll kill him and anyone else stupid enough to get in my way. He calmed himself and shook his head before turning to continue down the corridor. Flashback no jutsu end. Naruto the Nico Senin trailed on in thought. The sudden explosion shook the area and the two senin separated from each other's sides. Naruto skidded to a halt a few feet away, only to jump out of the way of another exploding clay bomb that had took the form of a bug. Once in midair, Naruto watched as Deidara's clay dragon seemed to spat out a volley of small chunks of clay that looked to be homing in on the Kitsune Senin. Damn it, I can't shunpo. In midair, Naruto growled in thought as he brought his arms up over his chest as a shield. Futen. Racin, he whispered, and a plate of a spinning chakra formed in front of him. The projectiles exploded harmlessly on the chakra shield and Naruto touches back down on the ground, again glaring up at the bomber. Where's Pain? It was a demand, not a question. Deidara just scoffed, sorry. Not telling, it's a secret, yeah. Then Toby play too. Naruto looked over his shoulder and saw the orange-masked Akatsuki member staring at him questionably with his head cocked to the side. Though he didn't know what had caused it at the time, at that moment Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto could not help himself but be consumed by his anger. He attacked. Yujiro sat atop a large one-tailed cat with comparable size to Tsukino, and together they dashed across the open field. "Nare! Fire!" Yujiro shouted as she saw the man chasing her move closer. "I hear you, the cat." Rei muttered in annoyance before suddenly skidding to a stop while turning. "Nakamata Enden." She called out and launched a giant bolt of purple flames at the Akatsuki member. There was a sudden explosion as it connected, but that didn't mean they had won. "You can't run this time." Girly Haiden appeared in front of the two in a single moment. "By the will of Jashin-sama, I will kill you." Before he could land the hit, Rei used her tail to throw her passenger off before disappearing back to the summoned realm in a poof of smoke. Haiden growled and turned but was knocked off balance by an impact from the side. He looked down and instead of a kunai like he had expected he saw an arrow. He looked up at the Nico Sennin and just saw her standing there with a bow in her hands aimed at him. She lowered her weapon and smirked. "I know ya," she said barely above a whisper, and the arrow suddenly exploded in his side. "Got you," Yujiro whispered again, seeing his now unmoving body on the ground still relatively intact. She thought she had finished him with that last hit and slowly took a step towards him. When she got close enough, however, she wasn't able to dodge the moving scythe coming at her from the side. It slashed her face from the side, and by the will of its attached chain, the scythe returned to its wielder's hand. "Did you really think something like that would kill me?" Haiden asked, standing up, showing the large hole in his side. "I had hoped," she admitted. Haiden just grinned and began to create a symbol on the ground around him using his own blood. "I hope you enjoyed life, because you are about to be judged by Jashin-sama." Just then the skin on his body changed color into something reminiscent of a Grim Reaper. "Rasengan," Naruto called out as he lunged at the masked Akatsuki member. "What the hell?" he asked, startled as he appeared to phase right through him. The blonde skidded to a stop a few feet away and looked at the man's orange mask. "What's going on here? I know I landed that hit, but it did no damage. Come play with Toby." The Akatsuki member gestured for the blonde to come at him. Naruto's eyes begun to shift in color from blue to red as he glared at Toby. He made a hand seal and muttered, "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." 20 clones appeared at his side and charged towards the Akatsuki member at full speed. "I have to thank the Raikage for this jutsu next time I see him." "Yay, more friends," Toby waved. "Bunshin Daibakuha." The clones called out once in range and exploded with tremendous forces. Toby emerged from the smoke completely unharmed and looked around, unable to find the Kitsune Sennin. "Where'd you go, mister?" "Here," came a voice from behind him. He turned swiftly and was completely unprepared for the long double-edged sword that struck at his chest. "I'll ask again, where's Pain?" "The sword," Toby said, losing his childish demeanor. "Is a transcended sword and so cannot be blocked by thing you're using to deflect my attacks," Naruto told him as he twisted the blade. "Now answer the question, or believe me you won't like what I'll do." Toby didn't reply as he suddenly started to shrink into his Akatsuki cloak until it disappeared too. "What the hell? Where did he go?" Naruto asked, looking around for the masked Akatsuki member. "You still have me to contend with, yeah?" Deidara shouted from his clay dragon as he launched another volley. "Would you stop dropping bombs on me already?" Naruto shouted in frustration and anger as he dodged a barrage. Yeah," was Deidara said as he launched another salvo of clay bombs. "I've had enough of this. I think it's about time I tried out that new jutsu I salvaged from Whirlpool Country." Naruto muttered darkly with his eyes now fully red. He made a hand seal, and 3 shadow clones appeared at his side. "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." He held out both of his hands, and 2 of the clones went to one of them while the last went to the other. The 2 clones standing at one side begun to insert chakra and wind manipulation into a contained sphere in the palm of his hand, while the last clone drew on the water in the neighboring art to spin it in the palm of his other hand. "Gyuten. Rasengan, Suiton. Hahanyu. Gufusuka no Jutsu." The original Naruto called out as he brought both of the jutsus together into a new one. The large spinning wall of water exploded from the contact, putting a swirling barrier of water and wind between the 2 fighters. "What is this?" Deidara shouted in rage as he saw his bombs detonate harmlessly on the water vortex. "Gyuten. Rasen Shuriken." Deidara turned swiftly, seeing the giant chakra wind shuriken flying at him at high speed. "Shit, yeah," the bomber said through gritted teeth as he jumped off of his clay dragon. The chakra shuriken sailed past the dragon and continued on towards him. It narrowly missed as Deidara fell towards the ground, but just then the Rasen shuriken detonated, catching his arm. His arm was ripped apart, completely destroying it and making him wince in pain from the attack. Once he touched down on the ground again, he glared over at his opponent. "You'll pay for that, yeah?" the bomber shouted as he returned to his feet. Despite his words, Deidara knew he couldn't win a prolonged fight against him and so decided to not hold back. "I was hoping to get the chance to use this against Itachi, but you'll do for a good test subject, yeah?" He pulled out a large mass of clay and ate it with his normal mouth. "You had better pray, demon, because you die here and now, yeah?" He vomited out a large mass of clay which expanded and Naruto jumped away before taking a look up at the towering giant. Oh crap, it was a Nendo Bunshin, clay clone, of Deidara. Nothing really new about that since Naruto had seen him make them before, but now this wasn't a regular clone. The thing was massive, easily 50 feet tall if not taller, and if Naruto remember correctly this particular type of clone had a tendency to explode. If that thing explodes right now it might kill me. I'm not sure if the Rasengan can take that kind of a blast. Naruto's breathing suddenly seemed to become ragged. He turned sharply and stepped as far away as he could. I've got to get away, Shunpo no Jutsu. You can't escape my art, yeah. Deidara shouted from the air. Let me introduce you to C4 Kurara. Ketsu. The large clone suddenly seemed to disintegrate until nothing was gone. Naruto stopped on a nearby tree and looked back. What the hell happened? I thought it was supposed to explode. He could suddenly feel a large amount of impacts against his barrier as the protective barrier began to flare into sight. What's hitting the Rasengan? Are those bombs? Yeah. The bomber shouted riding atop his clay dragon once again. Damn it, they must be some form of very small clay bombs. I can't stop them all from getting through the Rasengan though. The Rasengan seemed to become visible under the constant barrage. My healing factor is dealing with the bombs that get through the Rasengan, but it's not working fast enough. It was true, his skin was being blown apart as well as his internal organs, and because of his advanced healing, he was able to keep going. Sadly the damage was beginning to exceed the healing rate and his skin was being blown apart faster than it could heal. If the Rasengan fell, then he would be dead in moments, and he knew it. Come on, I need a way out of this, damn it, think the Kitsune Sennin yelled in thought, still feeling his defense being continuously hit. His eyes suddenly flashed in recognition. Of course, if I add the wind element, then the Rasengan will be able to shred the bombs at the cellular level just like the Futen. Rasen Shuriken Doze. He concentrated and suddenly there was a continuous low-pitched screech as he called out, Futen. Rasengan. From that moment on none of the miniature bombs were able to get past his barrier. Deidara was getting frustrated when he saw that Naruto was no longer taking damage. However, Deidara noticed that the ex-Konohinin was breathing harder than before while he tried to keep his barrier up as long as possible. Even going as far as to tap into his Sage Mode's chakra supply to maintain it at full power. After another minute and 23 agonizing seconds of this, the last of the bombs were destroyed and Naruto dropped to the ground, panting hard with sweat rolling down his face. Deidara saw that his eyes had returned to normal and knew that the Kitsune Sennin Sage Mode was now out of power. I was expecting you to die, yeah, the bomber said more as a statement than anything else. Sorry to disappoint you, Naruto shot back still trying to catch his breath. Your barrier is down though, and it looks like that power of yours is out of juice as well, yeah, Deidara grinned amused. He's right, Sage Mode has shut down, and I don't know how to get it back right now. The Futen. Rasengan drained almost all of my chakra, how the hell do I win this? Naruto suddenly heard a shout and looked up, see a swarm of clay birds descending towards him. Oh crap, he quickly made some quick hand seals and inhaled a large breath of air. Futen. Tatapa. He blew out the air in a blast of wind using up all of his remaining chakra in the process, though it proved to be enough as it deflected or destroyed the oncoming swarm. That's it, I'm spent. You have to be running out of chakra by now, yeah. It was an innocent question, but the way the bomber said it was almost crazed. Naruto gulped and thought, what do I do now? Flashback no jutsu begin. The toad nodded before speaking quietly, I am the holder of the key, my name is Jiratora. I must say it has been a long time since we have last seen each other. Jinchuriki of the QB no Kitsune. That term no longer applies to me, Jiratora-san. QB's consciousness is no longer inside the seal, Naruto corrected. Jiratora chuckled, true enough, but the seal is still there as is the QB's chakra core and power. Flashback no jutsu end. Naruto's eyes flashed in remembrance, oh yeah, I forgot I still have the Furball's chakra core stuffed in my gut. He grinned before he began to concentrate on accessing that particular energy source. I have to remain in control or this won't work. What are you smiling at, yeah? Nothing you do will change the outcome of this fight, yeah? Deidara eyes bore down on the ex-Konohinin, but Naruto just glared back. For the record, I would have kicked your ass the first time if Kakashi hadn't stopped me, Naruto finished, and suddenly red chakra exploded from his body. Note. I'm sure some of you know I got this line from Halo Wars. It soon wrapped around his body, and Deidara was forced to guide his clay dragon further away the spiraling column of red light. The chakra encased Naruto in a barrier of red taking the shape of a fox with one tail, and then a second tail formed. Then another and another until a total of 4 tails had formed. Naruto let out a silent scream as his skin was ripped apart from the intense power running through and across him. The blood mixed with the chakra and suddenly Naruto's body was no longer seen. A large shockwave erupted from his position and flattened everything within a 5-mile radius. In the center there was only a crimson chakra fox with his face covered in a black mask with pure white eye and a seemingly glowing mouth. Well, this just got a lot harder, yeah. The fox roared. Fire country. Forest. The Konoha retrieval team jumped from tree to tree in search of their missing comrades, with Hinata and Kiba leading them with their respective abilities. Suddenly Yamato stopped on one of the branches and snapped his head towards the distant tree to his left. He turned his gaze to his hand, feeling a small but noticeable sting, and saw that smoke drifted off of it. "What's wrong?" Kiba asked the Anbu captain. "It's Naruto, he just released 4 tails of QB's chakra," Yamato informed them in a desperate voice. "I thought you put another seal on him to stop that from happening," Kakashi stated. "I did, but for some reason it's not working," Yamato answered hurriedly. "Can you track him?" The copy nin asked and Yamato nodded in reply. "Alright then, let's move," he said as an order. "Follow me," said Yamato as he took off in the direction he had been looking towards. Fire Rain Country. Order. "Now I can finally savor the pain your death will cause," Hayden laughed as he drew his weapon back, readying to stab himself. "Say hello to Jashin-sama for me, girly," he shouted before stabbing himself through the chest. Yujito's eyes widened as she remained standing motionless for a few seconds before dropping to her knees and then falling down until she lay on the cold ground. Hayden sighed in satisfaction as he pulled aside from his chest. Now that hit the spot, he walked confidently over to the fallen woman's body as he hefted up his weapon onto his shoulder. "Was it good for you?" "Not really," she said as she bolted to her feet and dashed towards him. He stood shocked that she was still alive for a moment before getting his bearings again, but it was already too late. Kazuki. She knocked the Akatsuki member's chain-wielded weapon out of the way with one flame-covered arm and flung out her other arm towards the man's chest. "Soon, Kazuki," she called out as she pierced the man and cleaved off the arm that held onto the chain. She pulled away before he could counter-attack and kicked him in the chest, knocking him back. "I got you. How are you still alive?" "I know I cut you. I had your blood, so how did you escape my curse?" Hayden shouted his fury at her, clutching his missing arm. Yujito grinned and answered, "I'm a girl of many talents. One of which is while in my cat sage mode I become the direct servant of Shinigami-sama, and as such, he will not allow you to curse me while I'm in this form." Hayden let out a low growl of anger under his breath as he glared at her. "You really think you've won?" He suddenly started laughing madly, almost crazily at her. "Fool. This is getting interesting." He rolled to the left and picked up the chain connected to his side. "I'm going to kill you, girly." Ha 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 ha. If Yujito were to be truly honest with herself, she would say that she was scared, no, terrified of the man she was facing. He had taken everything she had thrown at him and just kept going. Hell, the guy didn't even look bothered by the amount of damage she had inflicted on his body. Yet this man, this demon, appeared to have just shrugged off the wounds like they were paper cuts and seemed to keep coming at her. Yes, she was truly scared of him, if only for that simple reason. "Stay away from me," she shouted as purple chakra erupted from her body and spiraled around her. Her body was ripped apart under the constant heat and the chakra became purple flames. The flames suddenly took the shape of a large cat made out of fire and with 2 swishing tails behind her. She let out a loud roar at the Akatsuki member, which was reminiscent of a tiger's. She flung her large fire claw at her and a wave of flames erupted from the tips. "Hi Nami," the fire cat growled out as the flames became brighter. "Now this is more like it," Hayden shouted as he dodged the large waves of fire coming at him. "Hold still," the cat growled and begun forming a ball of what appeared to be concentrated heat and flames at her open mouth. "Nekomata Gakakyu." The ground shook as the fireball was shot towards Hayden and exploded in a glorious display of light. Once it died down, the landscape looked to have been leveled and there were a few patches of glass littering the smoking ground. "Is that all you've got?" "I'm disappointed," came a voice from behind her, prompting the cat to turn swiftly. "How did you survive that?" Yujito growled at seeing the Akatsuki member standing at the edge of the nearby cliff leaning on his side. "I told you I'm immortal," he shot back with an insane grin. The fire cat charged towards him, intent on eating him alive. "Heh," Hayden chuckled before he jumped high into the air above Yujito. The cat skidded to a stop as she neared the edge. She cast a look down while keeping an eye on her opponent and noticed that down the cliff was a large ravine. Hayden touched down on the opposite side of her and swung his scythe down on the ground, causing it to crack. "Sayonara," he said with a wave as the entire cliff edge collapsed and fell into the ravine with Yujito. She screamed as she touched to water as her flame body was instantly cooled and she emerged from the water in her humanoid form again. She glared up at the seemingly undying man even as he tells her, "Give up already, girly, you can't win." She climbed out of the water, so she stood on it and glared up at Hayden. Her cloak had been destroyed and her clothes were dripping wet from the dive. Yujito quickly went through her options and knew her clothes would weigh her down if she were to fight the Akatsuki Reaper in close combat again. Thankfully for her, she noticed something when she had climbed out of the water that would allow her to still fight. Her sage mode had been recharged. Deciding to take this as a good omen, she held out her hand and ignited it in a burst of flames. "Now what are you doing?" Hayden asked, smirking down at her. "I told you already that I'm immortal. You can't kill me with that petty old thing." "Who says I'm aiming for you?" the Nico Sennin asked as she unleashed the superheated stream of fire towards the already darkened sky. Kaiten. Daikazuki. She called out as the beam seemed to dissipate in the sky. What was that meant to do? Give me a tan. Haydn mocked, but his grin quickly turned into a frown when the area became darker and he could hear the sound of lightning echoing from all directions. It's just meant to finish what the Nekomata Gakakyu was supposed to do before, Yujito answered with a smile. Your Jashin-sama won't save you here team, have a nice day in hell. Raiden. Kirin. She called out as the lightning in the area increased drastically. Suddenly a large dog-like monster made of lightning shot down from the sky and hit the cliff with a thunderous blast, sending massive amounts of heat and shockwaves for 100 feet. Haydn screamed as his body was melted beyond recognition until there was nothing left but a pile of dust smeared all over the now destroyed cliff edge. Yujito slumped to her knees as her eyes returned to normal, having running out of power in her sage mode. Thank God, oh thank God, Yujito thought as she crawled across the water onto dry land. She fell onto her back and stared up at the sky feeling completely exhausted. That's it, I'm done. I've got nothing left, sage mode is deleted, I'm drenched so demon mode is out of the question, and my normal chakra reserve is running on empty, I need a vacation. Suddenly she felt a large chakra spike fill the air and turned her head to the left where she felt it originated from, that chakra that's QP's power being released. She forced herself to her feet and started off towards where her partner was fight. If someone were to ask her why she was pushing herself like this, she would have just told them it was something she wanted to do. Higher country. Plane. Idara veered away avoiding the massive shockwave that seemed to span out over the ground below. He swung his clay dragon around and looked towards the center of the massive crater his opponent had created. In the center stood a crimson chakra fox with 4 swishing tails down on all fours, with that same annoying grin on its face. It was mocking him with its grin. Had enough yet? Naruto growled out in an unearthly tone. You annoying little brat. You dare to mock my art, I'll kill you, yeah. Deidara shouted angrily at him. Several small projectile-like clay birds shot out of the clay dragon and sped towards the fox with great speed. Naruto saw it coming however, and so he lifted his right arm up and clenched his crimson fist before bringing it down on the ground with monstrous force. The resulting shockwave that was released sent ripples of earth in all directions stretching for miles, even as the blast destroyed the approaching attack from Deidara. Are you done? The fox taunted with that same grin on its face. Not quite, yeah, the bomber's glare intensified as did his anger at the fox below. He pulled out a small object made of clay from his pouch at his side and said, I underestimated you so I won't hold back. Yeah, Deidara steered his clay dragon directly above the fox and dropped the massive clay down towards it. Let's see how you like C3, yeah. Naruto tried to dodge, but the Yauki that was constantly moving around him made it hard to move more than a few feet before the clay bomb detonated. The ground shook, causing those of the Konoha retrieval team to stop as they suddenly heard the grumbling sound of an explosion. Okay, what the hell was that? Kiba asked as the earth stopped shaking. It came from up ahead, Kakashi told them. We must hurry. Yamato shouted and they took off again. As the team continued, Sakura's mind focused on the one person she knew she had to meet again, Naruto. How do you like my C3? It's a blast, yeah. Deidara said as a statement more than a question. The dust cleared after a few moments and Naruto could be seen still in his four-tailed form. Where's Pain? The question was so simple and yet filled with so much anger that it was slightly disturbing to the Akatsuki bomber. I'm not telling, yeah, Deidara said with a grin as he saw the fox level a glare at him. Then I'll make you talk, Naruto growled out. He suddenly let out a massive roar sending shockwaves across the crater. His body shook for a moment as dozens of blue and red balls were released from his body. Now what are you doing? The bomber asked quickly, losing his grin. Naruto didn't answer as he brought his tails up in front of his mouth and the balls suddenly started to merge together between the tips. Well, that looks unhealthy. Yeah, Deidara veered away, determined to put some distance between the two as now completely black ball in the hovering just above the fox's head imploded in on itself until it was the size of a pebble. That much condensed chakra can kill me if I'm not careful. In Biko Imari, we're getting close, Yamato reported as they drew near. The group stopped suddenly as they felt a massive amount of chakra being released, followed by a blind light shining through the tree in front of them. Shockwaves rippled past them which would have blown them away had they not been using chakra to remain where they were. Okay, enough of this shit, what the hell was that just now? Kiba asked in a shout after the light dissipated and the noise settled down. I believe that was the QB's jutsu, Yamato informed them. I remember feeling something similar when Naruto fought Orochimaru, the Anbu captain added. That was an Oni jutsu. How far away are we from them? Kakashi asked, remembering when he saw Naruto use 2 tails worth of power. 32 kilometers, Yamato answered as looking at the direction of the blast. It will take us 30 minutes to get there even at ninja speed. Kakashi shook his head and took off. Let's move, the rest of the team followed right after. Dust clouded the area from view, the rumbling of rocks, trees and other things falling down filled the air with a sickening smell. A long line of shifted dirt led from the center of the crater to the wide canyon at its edge, which stretched for additional 20 miles outside of the crater. Naruto let a grin spread across his Yaki-covered face as he saw Deidara standing on one knee breathing with difficulty. The Akatsuki bomber's cloak was in ruins, and his body was littered with numerous scrapes and scratches. He had used almost all of his remaining clay to hold back the blast, and even though it wasn't a direct hit, it still dealt a lot of damage. Deidara started shouting angrily at him, "How are you so much stronger than before? It must be your demon, yes it must be your demon. It's inhuman to progress at such a rate, I'll kill you, you damn demon." He didn't care about capturing the Jinchuriki anymore, all he wanted was to kill this boy once and for all, even if he had to die to do it. He tore off his ruined cloak along with his shirt, revealing his scarred body riddled with stitches. The bomber suddenly started laughing uncontrollably as he undid one of the stitches in his chest, and once the stitches were opened, Naruto could clearly see what had been wrapped up. It was a mouth, he had a mouth in the middle of his chest. He pulled out all of the clay he had left, which was only a handful, and stuffed it into his chest mouth, allowing it to chew and swallow it. "Let me introduce you to my ultimate art," Deidara said with a crazed smile. Crack-like webs began to form on his skin branching out of his chest mouth. "I will detonate myself here and now." "You're insane," Naruto snarled as he watched the cracks continue to expand to every corner of the bomber's body. "Never before has an explosion like this been seen, Kitsune Sennin," Deidara laughed as he saw the fox narrow its eyes. "The art I will create will scar the earth and light the heavens. With this Act 1 shall become art." The bomber's skin was beginning to dissolve now as the mouth in his chest seemed to condense into a ball of chakra resembling a face. "When I become true art QB Jinchuriki you will die." His legs were gone now with only wire-like chakra threads remaining. "The blast will destroy everything within a 10-mile radius and not even you can possibly survive it, yeah." His arms were gone now and the cracks had reached his head. "I have to get away." Naruto tried to move but felt the Yaki still weighing him down. "Are you afraid now?" Deidara taunted seeing the fox try to flee. "You can't escape me now, cower in awe. Recoil in despair, cry your heart out." The last of his body had dissolved and wire chakra threads retracted back to the floating ball of chakra, which seemed to have a smiling face on it. "There's not enough time." Naruto's pure white eyes widened in horror as the floating chakra head seemed to glow. "Because my art is a blast." The retrieval team stopped again as a massive explosion sent rippling shockwaves across the land. Thankfully they were still quite a few miles off so none of them were hurt, but the fact that they could see the explosion even this distance was very discomforting. "Now what?" Kiba growled. "That chakra, it's the same as the Akatsuki member Naruto and I fought back when Kazekage-sama was kidnapped," Kakashi stated, remembering the blonde bomber who appeared to have committed suicide rather than surrender. Once the blast appeared to have died down, the team continued on. "Everyone be careful. We don't know what we're walking into." They nodded as one as they closed in on one of their objectives. Nai Yujito had experienced a lot of emotions during her 16 years of life, from angry to happy. One emotion however she hadn't felt since she was 6 years old, and that emotion was fear. Fear for someone close to her getting hurt. When she saw the massive explosion she thought that the worst had happened and quickly after arriving on the scene found the entire crater covered in smoke and dust. "Naruto?" She called out using her hands and chakra to amplify her voice, but received no answer. "Naruto?" She called again, but again got no reply. Her eyes catch a flicker of light from within the dust cloud, she immediately jumps down towards it. Once she was close enough she was able to identify what it was. Namikaze Uzumaki. Naruto lay on his back unconscious. His trench coat wasn't anywhere to be seen, and his clothes were covered in blood which she identified as his own. She kneeled beside his body and began to channel some chakra into her hands to heal the burnt skin covering his body. Once she was finished she then bit her thumb and went through a few hand seals before slamming her hand down on the ground. Kuchiyu's no jutsu, the one-tailed cat she had ridden before, poofed into existence. "Hello Ray-chan. I need your help with this if you don't mind." The cat princess looked at the two before nodding. "Very well Yujito Dono. There's a town not too far from here, let's go." Yujito slung Naruto over her shoulder and climbed on the cat. Ray nodded at the directions and took off at high speed away from the still smoking crater. The retrieval team dropped down from the trees and landed near the crater. Kiba sniffed the air and shook his head. "I can't smell anyone with the amount of smoke in the air. I cannot see anyone within range of the crater," Niji informed the team as he shut off his Byakugan. "Me neither," Hinata added, saddened. "What could have done this?" Tenten asked as she looked over the wide crater with the canyon attached to it. "Naruto," Yamato replied simply. "Are we talking about the same happy-go-lucky blonde here?" "Last time I checked Naruto never did like mindless destruction." Tenten sent him a glare. Yamato shook his head and pointed at the canyon attached to the crater. "No, we're talking about the student of the late Jiraiya-sama who is hunting the man who killed his sensei." They only needed one glance at the canyon to know that Naruto hadn't held anything back. Despite knowing this however they couldn't help but fail to match the image they knew of Naruto with the mass destruction around them. There are also traces of chakra from the Akatsuki member we encountered on the Kazekage retrieval mission in the crater. The blast pattern matches with Iwa clay bombs, Niji informed them. Is he dead? Kakashi asked in a tone that made it know that he was completely serious. Niji nodded. According to the chakra residue, he was nearer in the center of the blast when it occurred. Well, at least he went out with a bang, Tenten joked, lightening the mood. What about Naruto? Kakashi asked, casting a look towards Yamato. The Anbu captain shook his head. He's powered down. I can't track him now. Niji also shook his head. The large amount of chakra in the area is masking everyone's chakra signatures, so I am unable to ascertain his location. Kakashi sighed and nodded. Alright then, everyone split up a search. I doubt they've gone far, so let's find them. Fire country. Kanoka town. Pain lanced through his body, waking him up startled for a moment. He sat up groggily and looked around, trying to get his bearings. He was in a room with a single double bed and an open window. You're awake, that's a relief, a voice came from the side, and he snapped his head in its direction. I thought you weren't going to wake up for a moment there, Yujito said from the door. Naruto rested his head back against the bed frame and asked, how long was I out? 32 hours and 53 minutes, Yujito answered with a sigh. A day and a half, Naruto rubbed his eyes in concentration. There's something else, Konoha ninja are here, the moment she said that she had his full attention. What? Why? Asked a Kitsune Senin with narrowed eyes. They're after us, they've been asking around town for us for the last 2 days. Thankfully, however, they are unable to locate us because of the amount of raw chakra scattered everywhere thanks to our little skirmish with Akatsuki. Yujito told him. How long until the chakra stops masking our signatures? Naruto asked, climbing out of the bed. 6 hours at most, she answered truthfully. Then I think it's about time we left, huh? They both knew it wasn't a suggestion. After putting on his jumpsuit, he asked, Yujito, where's my coat? It was destroyed when you released QB's power. Mine did the same when I used Nibi's, she told him. Damn. The newly formed Team Hibi jumped from tree to tree towards where the large flashes of light that signified a battle originated from. Sasuke dropped down to the ground floor and pulled out the weapon attack to his back as his eyes turned red and shifted into the Sharingan. What do you want? The Uchiha asked, annoyed as his teammates dropped down beside him. To deliver a message, a plant-like figure emerged from the ground. Itachi is waiting for you, Uchiha, at the old Uchiha hideaway just north of the village, spoke the darker half of the man's face. It could be a trap, Sujetsu mused the idea. He's not lying, Sasuke said with no emotion, his red eyes were still spinning. My Sharingan can't tell he's not, the Uchiha stated and suddenly appeared behind the Akatsuki member in a gust of wind. What? What? Both sides of the plant-like creature exclaimed in surprise as the Kusanagi sword cut through him and cleaved him in half, literally. Your message has been delivered, the Uchiha said without a hint of sympathy. Oh Sasuke-kun, you're so cool, Karen squealed with delight at seeing the display of strength, or should I say brutality. Sasuke didn't say anything, but motioned for them to continue, and the team started off towards the north. On their way, however, they ran into a little problem. A lone figure shot down in their path and tried to cut the group down, even though it cleanly missed the initial swing with its weapon. Jugo's arm was still cut, like part of his skin was shaved off. Now what? Sujetsu asked in annoyance as he skidded along the ground, clutching the handle of the Kubikiri HMCHM, which rested on his shoulder. I cut off your limbs before giving you all a nice long death, Kisame told them as he shouldered his sword. Oh Sasuke. We can deal with this bastard, Sujetsu shouted to him before charging towards his opponent. His sword drawn out as Kisame grinned like a shark about to catch its food. The Uchiha nodded and executed a quick Shunshin no Jutsu further north. He didn't even bother to cast one glance back towards his team. That Sakura gulped as she hid behind a tree. You might as well come out, Haruno-san, spoke Uchiha Itachi. She stepped out of cover after only a moment of hesitation, and she couldn't help but look at his activated Sharingan. You are either very brave or very stupid to come here alone. Sakura remained silent for a moment before she asked, you've already caught me in a genjutsu, haven't you? Itachi didn't say anything, so she continued, are you going to kill me? No, Itachi answered. Then why are you here? Sakura asked, confused but not letting her guard down. Itachi didn't answer but instead asked a question, why do you oppose us? Why have you been trying to take my brother and Naruto-kun back to Konoha? What? Sakura stuttered. We of the Akatsuki are trying to bring this world true peace, Itachi stated. Sakura's face settled into a glare. You call attacking Suna and Konoha ninja an act of peace? You can't understand, the Uchiha said in a condescending tone. I can't tell you everything, there is no time for that. All you need to know is everything Sasuke has done has been for nothing, and he still has a chance to redeem himself should he choose to. What do you mean? Sakura asked, confused. If Sasuke chooses not to redeem himself, then he will attack Konoha and kill everyone in it, Itachi stated, causing the pink-haired Kunoichi's eyes to widen. Can you kill him if need be? Daichi wouldn't do something like that, Sakura said, shaking her head. Then you clearly do not know him, the Uchiha said in a condescending tone. Naruto-kun does not need redeeming, Konoha was in the wrong for what they did to him. Konoha has made some mistakes in the past, but Sakura tried to defend but was cut off. A lot of crimes have been committed for the good of Konoha since its founding. Naruto-kun's exile is just another thing added onto a very long list of crimes done by the village. Itachi interrupted. If Naruto-kun were to return to Konoha, he would be executed for the good of Konoha just like me. He's nothing like you, Sakura snarled. Oh? Itachi raised an eyebrow and smirked. I believe you are mistaken. Despite Konoha's attempts at controlling him and his strength, Naruto-kun has grew much more powerful in such a short amount of time, just like I did at his age. The Uchiha's features returned to normal as he asked, what would you do if Naruto-kun were to be captured by Konoha and sentenced to death? Surely you realize that is what will happen should he ever be captured by Konoha. Konoha wouldn't. What would you do? Itachi asked again, cutting her off. Sakura gulped and looked away. I don't know. I pray you find the answer, because if you do not, then Konoha will burn and everything I have worked for will have been for nothing, Itachi told her. What do you mean? Sakura asked, not understanding him. It doesn't matter here. He raised his arm and it burst into 3 black sparrows. Sakura's eyes widened as the birds entered her mouth and disappeared inside her body. She dropped to the ground, coughed uncontrollably before eventually catching her breath. But she coughed again before continuing. What did you do to me? She yelled. I just gave you something that I pray you never have to use. Think of it as a sort of gift. Itachi closed his eyes and burst into a cluster of black sparrows. I must be going now, I have a prior engagement. Wait. She called out, but as the bird began to flutter away. When the time comes, I hope you make the right choice. The birds disappeared, and though she tried, she couldn't seem to track him. What did he mean by that? Sakura thought as she looked around. Well? Did anyone find anything? Kakashi asked the assembled group, already knowing the answer. Nothing, Yamato reported. We couldn't find anything, Neji spoke for the others. Sakura didn't say anything, knowing she didn't have any information relative to the situation. Kakashi sighed and asked, do we even know if they are still in the area? A sudden chakra spike caught everyone's attention, and they all snapped their heads in its direction. What's that? Kiba asked, feeling a gathering chakra. That chakra, that's Sasuke's curse seal, Kakashi's eye widened before it narrowed. Let's go, they all vanished in bursts of speed. What is to be our course of action once we arrive? Shino inquired as they jumped from tree to tree. Well, Kakashi started but snapped his head up and jumped to the right, watch out. Pain. Kakaku no Jutsu. A voice called out as the retrieval team jumped to the side to evade the large blue fireball that descended from the sky. Now what? Yamato muttered under his breath. I'm afraid I cannot let you past, the attacker stated as he stood on a nearby branch. His Akatsuki cloak fluttered in the wind as he lifted his head, revealing the orange mask he wore on his face. I cannot allow you to interfere. Who is this guy? Kakashi narrowed his eyes as he examined their adversary. Fire country. Uchiha hideout. Rubble covered the land all around, leaving no room for any kind of natural life to live. The sky had turned a mix between red and black, with thunderstorms raging above, while a massive black flame stretched out for miles some distance away. In the center of all this chaos lay 2 brothers, one dead and the other unconscious. This was the scene Naruto flash-stepped himself and Yujito to. They had left earlier that day intending on getting out of Fire Country when they felt the massive chakra spikes, accompanied by the roar of Araten, Kirin and the black flames of Amaterasu. On their way there they had come across the horrific remains of an Odo team that seemed to have been skinned alive with what Yujito identified as Kisam's sword. Samahata. This was definitely the result of a Kirin, the blast pattern matches it perfectly, Yujito told him as she examined the area. Sasuke Naruto muttered almost silently as he looked down at the man who he once considered a friend. I think that someone who can't even save his best friend isn't worthy of the title Hokage. What do you think, Sasuke? Itachi is dead, but from what I can tell he isn't critically injured, Yujito stated as she scanned the dead Uchiha beside Sasuke. What do you mean? Naruto asked, looking over at her. He appears to have died because of an illness. I've never seen something like this before, it's like the illness came from his eyes. The Nico Sennin answered after her hand stopped glowing. Naruto nodded and made a hand seal, come on, we're leaving. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, a clone popped into existence beside them. Yujito nodded and wrapped her arms around his neck as the clone picked up Sasuke off of the ground. Hang on tight, I don't want you falling off. She nodded as his clone and Sasuke disappeared in a collection of flashes. She closed her eyes, knowing if she kept them open she would feel dizzy in moments. Honestly, how Naruto could figure out where he was going while using his jutsu was beyond her. The next moment, however, she felt a gust of wind and, along with feeling weightless for a brief moment, Shunpo no Jutsu. Moments later, Tobi and Kisame arrived at the scene, find only Itachi lying on the ground. Well, he's dead, Kisame stated as he checked the body. What about Sasuke, where is he? Tobi asked in a tone that Kisame knew meant he was not amused. The swordsman sniffed the air and shook his head. He's long gone, that stench, he must have been taken by those two Senin brats. Tobi's only visible eye flashed red with anger as he sent a shockwave at the nearby makeshift cliff, destroying it instantly. Those brats are becoming a major thorn in my side, Tobi gritted out as he turned to kiss him. Pick up Itachi, we're leaving for now, he ordered. Kisum nodded and asked, what about the Biju? This is just a minor setback, I'll show them the Uchiha's power. My power, the power of Uchiha Madara when the time is right, Madara growled out in anger. Kisum didn't argue as he silently picked up his old partner and was suddenly grabbed by Madara. The three disappeared in a swirl of black and orange as it started to rain upon the great battlefield where the cries of several strong individuals had been fighting over the past few days. The Konoha retrieval team was the last to reach the scene, finding nothing but rubble with the rain pouring down on the land. This is the place, Niji informed them. Split up and search. Report on anything you find. Kakashi shouted out the orders and the team dispersed to check the surround area. He turned to Kiba and asked, can you smell anything? The Inyazuka shook his head as he answered, the rain is wiping away the scents. Kakashi sighed and shook his head, so we're too late. Off at the side Sakura couldn't help but look down as a single tear slid down her cheek, Sasuke-kun Naruto. Alright, we're returning to Konoha, we have no reason to stay out here any longer, the copy nin said to the group. Higher country. Dusk Mountain. The next day Uchiha Sasuke's first emotion as he regained consciousness was one of pain and exhaustion. Every muscle he had was aching from his battle with Itachi, but that didn't matter because he had finally did it. He had finally killed the man responsible for killing his family and achieved his ambition. Tap tap tap. He managed to open his eyes and found that he couldn't seem to move. Looking around he found himself in a small dark room with a closed window shining light in and a door directly in front of him. He tried to move, but found that he was tied to a chair with numerous seals on the ground around him which he recognized as chakra suppression seals. He tried to pulse his cursed seal to free himself, but it didn't seem to respond, and from that moment on he knew something was wrong. If you're trying to use that hiki you got from the snake, then I'm sorry to inform you that it's been destroyed. Sasuke stiffened at the voice, but relaxed as he recognized it. What do you mean, dope? The Uchiha asked looking over his shoulder. Don't ask me how, but that thing on your neck is gone, Naruto told him, ignoring the dope comment as he stepped out and stood in front of him. It doesn't matter anymore, Itachi is dead. Sasuke trailed off, resting his head back against the chair. And so is your team, Naruto continued. The Uchiha didn't even flinch, they were irrelevant. They were merely a means to an end. He was unprepared for the punch to the face from Naruto as his head was knocked to the side. You stupid bastard. People aren't just some tools for you to use and then discard whenever you want. Shouted the Kitsune Sennin as he grabbed the Uchiha by the collar. Why do you always have to be like this? You're such an arrogant asshole. You haven't changed one bit since we were genin. Do you even know what you're going to do now? Huh? With Itachi dead you don't have anything left. Not Odo, not Konoha, nothing. Sasuke let a smirk cross his face as he chuckled like a certain snake. Kukukuku, actually Konoha would welcome me back with open arms. What did you say? Naruto glared, pulled his face up so that they were eye level. As the last Uchiha I can return to Konoha whenever I want, and when I return, I will be granted amnesty for my actions because I have killed both Orochimaru and Itachi. Sasuke answered, looking bored, but the look in his eyes made him look smug. Naruto remained silent and let him go before taking a step back and grinning down at him, knowing the perfect way to take him down a peg or two. And yet you couldn't kill Itachi, could you? Naruto asked, seeing Sasuke lose his smirk. I did kill Itachi, I watched as he died. Sasuke narrowed his eyes. But you didn't kill him, did you? He dropped dead before you could avenge your loving family. Naruto watched as Sasuke tried to leap out of the chair, but the restraints kept him pinned. Don't you dare insult my family, dope. I know I killed Itachi because he was exhausted. The Uchiha snarled at him. Actually Itachi died because his illness finally caught up with him. That stopped Sasuke's rant in its tracks. What illness? Sasuke asked, narrowing his eyes further. Apparently Itachi had been suffering from some kind of illness for the past 8 years and it finally caught up with him during his fight with you. Naruto answered. You're lying, Sasuke said lowly. Have you ever heard me lie about something as important as this? It was a rhetorical question. Note. I'm just wondering, has Naruto actually lied at all in the series? Anyway, you didn't kill him, nor did you avenge your clan, you just wasted your time as his body finally gave out on him. Sasuke struggled against his bonds again, trying to break free. Shut up. You're lying. You're just saying that to impress Sakura. Aren't you still working on that promise you made that got him another punch to the face, this time making him cough up blood? For the record, I promised Sakura I'd bring you back to Konoha. She never specified that you had to be alive. Naruto's eyes turned red for just a moment. You're not as special as you might think, he told him and nodded behind the Uchiha. Before Sasuke could think, he was hit over the back of the head with something and fell into unconsciousness once again. What should we do with him? Yujiro asked, stepping out from behind the Uchiha. We're going to drop him off at Konoha's doorstep and fulfill one of my promises that is long overdue, Naruto sighed. What about the Akatsuki leader? He's still out there, Yujiro asked, remembering the original reason for them both going out to hunt Akatsuki. We were nearly killed, Yujiro, and I doubt the ones we fought are even close to Pain's level. Naruto shook his head and leaned back against the cabin wall. We need to get stronger if we want to stand a chance against them, so we're running again? Yujiro asked, not liking where this was going. No, we're just going to lay low for a while until Pain decides to pay us a visit, Naruto answered. What do you mean pay us a visit? You sound like you're waiting for him to come to you, she said, eyeing him. No, what I meant is when he decides to come out into the open, then we will fight him, Naruto replied as his eyes turned red and his pupils became slitted. Isn't that a bit risky? Asked the Nico Sennin. Maybe, but it's better than just attacking him in his home territory, Naruto said as he shifted his weight and proceeded towards the door with Yujiro not far behind. As they closed the door behind them, the room fell deathly silent as the last Uchiha remained completely unconscious. It took a week to return to Wave Country, but they didn't mind. The ninja patrolling the area did cause a bit of a problem, but they couldn't match Tsukino's and Rei's speed and stamina. On their way here, however, Naruto had sent Tsukino to drop off Sasuke at Konoha's gates so as to fulfill a promise he had made long ago. The paws of the horse, eyes, cat and fox seemed to clatter down on the metal of the Great Naruto Bridge even as they reduced their speed. As they passed through the town, many of the folk saw them. They immediately recognized the two and began to cheer, seeing that they had returned. Naruto and Yujiro forced smiles onto their faces and waved back as the two rode their respective summons through the town towards their destination. They both felt exhausted from on the move since their little skirmish with the Akatsuki. Thankfully no one had pursued them, so they didn't have to worry too much about that. Once they arrived at the lakeside house of the town mayor, they were greeted by Tsunami and brought inside. Tsunami left the two to wash up and allowed them to settle back in while she finished the dinner. Fortunately for Inari, they were having beef this time. At dinner, however, things got a little complicated. So you basically had your asses kicked? Tazuna asked bluntly. Father? Tsunami shouted at him indignantly. No, he's right, if we hadn't accessed the power of our respective demons, then we both would have died back there, Naruto shook his head truthfully. He leaned back in his chair and continued, they had us beat and they knew it. It can't be as bad as you're making it sound, Inari spoke up. I mean, you both won, right? Ichido nodded slightly, yes, but we barely survived against them, and the ones we fought were nothing but pawns. We need to get stronger and faster, Naruto said as he clenched his fists. Actually, I've been thinking about that, Yujiro said, catching his attention. My jutsu. Kizuki isn't finished, I still have some work to do on it. What about you? Naruto sat back trying to think of something. I might have something to work on, but I doubt I can finish it in time. It's something I've been thinking about ever since I learned Futen. Totapa and mastered the Futen. Rasen Shuriken. That's what shadow clones are for, remember? Asked the Nico Sennin. I mean, they've been good for us so far, so why not now? I suppose. Can you teach me something too? Inari asked, surprising everyone there. Inari Tsunami trailed off as she caught the look he sent her. But I hate being useless, we always have to ask ninja of other countries to fight for us. I want to be a ninja, but I don't want to join any village, especially Konoha, the preteen stated. Naruto stared at him for a few seconds and then sighed, are you sure? I mean, the life of a shinobi isn't really easy and people could end up using your friends and family just to get to you. I know it's selfish, but I just want to protect everyone, Inari answered. Alright, come to the training field tomorrow morning and don't be late, Naruto told him after a moment of thinking. I'll be there, Inari said with a smile. The rest of the dinner passed relatively quietly with everyone just enjoying each other's company. It was moments like this that Yujiro couldn't help but smile at. No matter how bad things got or how many problems life seemed to throw at them, it was moments like this that she was thankful for. A single moment of peace where there was no danger, no fear of attack and no hatred in the world around them. After dinner, the two returned to their room and got changed for bed. They climbed into the same bed and faced away from each other. If you rewind to chapter 7, then you will realize that Yujiro has nightmares because of what happened to her mother and needs to be woken up sometimes. Naruto? Yujiro whispered. Yeah? He asked over his shoulder. Why did you agree to train Inari? I mean, I thought you wanted to go after Pain and Akatsuki, so why? She asked, turning to face him. The Kitsune Sennin turned as well and answered, because I was like him once. A long time ago, I asked my sensei at the time. Kakashi for training and he refused, preferring to teach the Uchiha and handing me off to some other jonin who did nothing but criticize my chakra control. Neither of them even realized that at the time the only reason my chakra control was beyond horrible was because Orochimaru had placed a suppression seal on the QB's seal to block out its power. I'm lucky I came across Hiro Sennin, or Gaara would have killed me and done a lot more damage to Konoha if not outright destroy it. You're serious? she asked, having heard of nothing but great things about the copy nin of Konoha. Naruto nodded slightly. It wasn't until I failed to get Sasuke back the second time that he actually wanted to train me, and even that I suspect would have just been for the purpose of recovering the traitor. Silence descended upon the darkened room as Yujiro suddenly pulled him into tight hug. You shouldn't keep your emotions bottled up like this, Naruto, it's not healthy, she whispered. Why does he never let anyone in? Is it to cope with the pain he feels? Naruto just closed his eyes and tried to block out the pain he felt. I know, but I can't help but wonder what would have happened back then if he actually paid attention to me like he did to Sasuke. Iro-sen taught me more in the 1 month before the finals of the Chunin exam than Kakashi did in the entire time I was on Team 7. Vegito just held him tightly. I see. So that's why you agreed to train Inari. You don't want to make the same mistake he made with you, and you know I'll be there if you need me. She smiled slightly and pulled back slightly, so she rested her head on the pillow. If that's the case, then why did you send the Uchiha back to Konoha, knowing that they'd let him off scot-free? Because he can no longer have children, Naruto answered. This of course surprised Yujiro. What did you do? I put a seal on him that Iro-sen taught was created in order to control the population of bloodline clans. I just put one on Sasuke before Tsukino-chan delivered him to Konoha, Naruto explained. He's only ever wanted 2 things in his life, to kill Itachi and restore his clan. The seal makes sure that he can't restore his clan, and you already know how he failed in killing Itachi. Aren't you worried that Konoha might retaliate or destroy the seal? She asked. Naruto just grinned at her and answered truthfully, Konoha can try and get to me all they want, but they won't, and as for Sasuke to release a seal that advanced, you would need an incredible amount of chakra and knowledge of it to even have a chance of destroying it. How long do you think it will take them to realize what you've done? Yujiro asked, imagining the looks on the concealmembers' faces when they realized what had happened. You sneaky little fox, she added in thought with a slight chuckle. They probably already know, Naruto said with a grin. After a few moments of silence, Yujiro said tiredly, we should get some sleep. We have a big day tomorrow. Yeah, you're right. He covered his mouth as he let out a yawn and nodded. Good night, Yujiro. Good night, Naruto, she said back and smiled when she saw he was unconscious. Catching herself staring, she shook her head and widened her eyes slightly. What's wrong with me? She pulled back slightly, shook herself. Am I falling for him? She shook herself again, just let her mind wander, and before she knew it, she had fallen asleep as well. They both knew that the coming days would be stressful, but at that moment while holding each other in their arms, they just didn't care. In the following days, Naruto had poured all of his effort into completing 2 of his jutsus, using the Kage Bunshin no jutsu to speed things along. One of which was a fully completed stage 6 Rasengan, infused with a wind element that would surpass the power of the stage 5 Futon. Rasen Shuriken. He had also begun working on a wind jutsu based on the Futon. To top it though, in comparison, the new jutsu was a lot more powerful, which he had yet to find a name for. Vegito on the other hand had taken her jutsu Kazuki to its most extreme level and nearly melting her hand to the bone when she first tried to use it. Yujiro had also tried to add her fire and lightning elements into her arrows, making them more powerful, but she knew just training and using them was useless unless she had a target. Fortunately, for her, Naruto's shadow clones were available for her target practice, as she called it. The 2 senin had also started teaching Inari on the basics of being a shinobi, like how to channel chakra and how to throw shuriken and kunai. That surprisingly only took a few days, and because of that Naruto, against Yujito's better judgment, decided to teach him Kage Bunshin no jutsu and Hein, which Naruto learned how to do after channeling his wind chakra into his sword. During this time, however, all was not well, as Yujiro grew more worried about Naruto when he seemed to throw himself into his training to forget the pain he felt, and she soon realized that he had done this before as a sort of coping mechanism. One day, however, an old talking toad had entered the town asking to speak to Naruto. Naturally, people were freaked at this, and after about 5 minutes the 2 senin had shown up. After reassuring the townsfolk that everything was alright, which they took his word for, being the town hero had its perks after all, the old toad, whose name was Fukasaku, though he insisted on being called Pa, handed the Kitsune Senin a book. According to the toad, it was Jiraiya's first book. The Legend of the Gutsy Ninja, and when asked why it was being given to him, the toad just replied saying Jiraiya would have wanted him to have it. The toad elder had left soon after, but not before telling him that the toads will stand by his side as his son Gamabunta had decreed. Yujiro decided not to get involved since they were Naruto's summons after all. She was however a bit surprised to find out that the main character in the book was teenager called Naruto. She caught him reading it late at night on more than one occasion after that. Rain Country. Amakatsuki headquarters. We've lost 3 more, Conan said, breaking the silence of the darkened cavern. Those 2 brats are quickly becoming a nuisance, Madara said with his Sharingan spinning wildly. What are we going to do about them? Kisame asked. If I'm not mistaken, they have done more damage to this organization than any other faction. Even Orochimaru's defection hasn't hurt us this badly. Pain narrowed his eyes and said, this is a minor setback, nothing more. They've went back into hiding and without Zetsu we have no way of locating them, Konan spoke as she sent looks at the remaining members. Madara remained silent for a moment before he finally spoke, Pain, Konan, you two hunt the Kyuubi and the Nibi. And what about the Hachibi? Pain asked send the Uchiha a stare. Leave the Hachibi, it still has a village to help it and so will not be as easily acquired, Madara replied. Pain fell silent for a moment before he spoke again, it would be almost impossible to find them now that they've gone into hiding again, it would be better if we could draw them out somehow. Madara chuckled darkly at that, I have an idea on how to accomplish that. Higher country. Root headquarters. Deep underground beneath Konoha, Concealmember Danzo sat in his office which he had inhabited for many years now. Many thoughts had plagued him for the past few days, mainly those about two certain individuals. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki and the last Uchiha. Those two children had been causing him some rather painful headaches over the last few months. Despite what many believed Danzo had voted against having the young Namikaze exiled. He would have preferred that the boy be turned into a weapon which he could wield to destroy his enemies with more effectiveness than his root Anbu forces. Sadly that didn't happen, and the boy was exiled and marked as a Nukenin. Now however he had become an increasing threat to himself and the rest of Konoha, if not every shinobi village on the continent. That's what Danzo and the village council truly believed now anyways. Then there's the Uchiha, Sasuke had been another nuisance to him until recently. When he and the village elders had used young Itachi to infiltrate and ultimately massacre the Uchiha clan, he had originally left Sasuke alone because of Itachi. However recent events had changed things. When Sasuke had defected from Konoha, Danzo had wanted the boy killed. Orochimaru was an elusive foe however and seemed to keep Sasuke out of his reach on more than one occasion over the past 3 years. Then Sai failed to kill Sasuke, and not long afterward Sasuke had killed Orochimaru, leaving Danzo to have a more clear shot at killing the boy and erasing all traces of his involvement in the Uchiha massacre once and for all. This however didn't happen, instead not only was Sasuke returned to Konoha alive, but Itachi was dead now as well. Without Itachi then Sasuke was no longer a threat to him. This was both good and bad, since he hadn't had any idea on what to do with the boy. Thinking back at the events of the Kyuubi attack 16 years ago, Danzo knew for the good of Konoha that Sasuke was needed too in order to defeat and control that giant beast, should it ever break free of its prison. Danzo found that slightly ironic, the boy he had wanted dead more than anything would become Konoha's greatest weapon. His weapon. He would do what was needed, he would offer young Sasuke a place in his root forces. True, the boy might be hard to control, but nevertheless he would be an effective tool to use against his enemies. Yes, that's what he would do. Higher country. Hyuga compound. At the home of the esteemed Hyuga clan, the Konoha 10, besides Sakura, as they were generally known as, were currently dining. They usually went to these get-togethers once a month, but after recent events it seemed everyone just needed to talk to someone. They all sat around the large table in the dining room talking about the various things that had happened recently. One of which was, I can't believe them. Tenten shouted, throwing her arms up in disbelief. Tenten, Niji said, trying to get her to calm down. Come on Niji-kun, you can't tell me that the council is right in their decision. I mean, come on, after everything the Uchiha has done, they let him go free with nothing more than a slap on the wrist and saying don't do it again, what the hell. The weapons mistress shouted in outrage. If it were anyone else other than the Uchiha they would have been executed, but no, not him. He's the last Uchiha, he must be pampered and praised for stealing other people's hard work. I have to agree with her, Shikamaru spoke up, getting surprised looks from the entire group. I mean, the council has basically circumvented the Hokage again and managed to get Sasuke free of all charges, while Naruto is still exiled for simply being the jailer of the Kyuubi. Taoji stopped eating the sushi he had on his plate and nodded. I know what you mean, almost all of the shinobi are steering clear of Sasuke. The civilians are praising him for killing Orochimaru and Itachi, Niji said, shaking his head. That is most unyouthful, Lee said as he lowered his head. I heard from Shizune sensei, that old concealmember, Danzo, I think his name, had offered him a job as a part of his route, Ino spoke up. From what I heard, Danzo wants him to be his personal weapon. Great, Kiba seemed to growl the word out. I've heard about him, he's the one Sai works for and the concealmember my mother mentioned after Naruto was exiled. Speaking of Naruto, he's been officially marked as a Nukenin, Shikamaru said, surprising the group again. How? Tenten asked. Apparently the daimyo acknowledged that Naruto deserted his village and must be dealt with accordingly, the Nara answered. They didn't do that to the Uchiha when he went to a known traitor who just so happened to have killed the Sandaime Hokage 3 years ago, Tenten said with slight anger. That's because the council didn't want him marked as a Nukenin, and neither did Hokage-sama because of Naruto and Sakura's feelings on the matter, Shikamaru replied. How's Sakura-san taking all of this anyway? Tenten asked, unsure. I don't know really, Ino answered truthfully. Uruno Sakura sat atop the roof of her home looking out at the setting sun with her legs pulled tightly to her chest. Her vision was clouded by the tears that continued to form and run down her face as she recalled everything that had happened. Naruto had kept his promise to bring Sasuke back since she knew only he could have done so, though the five-tailed fox that carried the traitor was a dead giveaway, but a part of her couldn't help but feel empty. Her mind drifted back to the days in the academy which felt like a lifetime ago, even though it was only 4 years. She remembered how she was always fighting with Ino over sitting next to Sasuke. How the rest of the rookie 9 at the time didn't seem to have a care in the world. How Sasuke brooded in the corner day after day and how Naruto. It always came back to Naruto, he had always been there for her and she felt incredibly empty without him now that he was gone. Exiled for something out of his control, even though the council seemed to stick with the excuse that he was a danger to everyone. She didn't believe that and neither did anyone else in Konoha's shinobi population. Hell, even the civilians had started to like him and after his exile, a lot of people were angered at the actions of the council. Her mind drifted back to their days on Team 7, that was funny since she had been doing that a lot lately. He had always been so carefree and seemed to just be there for her whenever Sasuke turned her down, and when Sasuke defected, she had clung to Naruto and begged him to bring the Sasuke back to her. Now though things were different, Naruto had kept his promise, but at the cost of his dream. She knew he could no longer be Hokage, and with the way things were going, there was a high chance that Sasuke would be named Hokage. She hated herself for being selfish and knew that she could never make it up to him, but she wanted to try anyways. Sasuke had barely said a word to her since he got back other than to finish his medic scans which Tsunade told her to do on him. He had been enraged when they discovered that he had a gene destroyer seal placed on him, so he couldn't have children which she knew only Naruto could do something like that. Let's just say he didn't take the news that well. A sudden memory flashed through her mind as she buried her head in her legs and cried. Flashback no jutsu begin. You can't understand, the Uchiha said in a condescending tone. I can't tell you everything, there is no time for that. All you need to know is everything Sasuke has done has been for nothing and he still has a chance to redeem himself should he choose to. What do you mean? Sakura asked confused. If Sasuke chooses not to redeem himself, then he will attack Konoha and kill everyone in it, Itachi stated, causing the pink-haired Kunoichi's eyes to widen. Can you kill him if need be? He wouldn't do something like that, Sakura said shaking her head. Then you clearly do not know him, the Uchiha said in a condescending tone. Naruto-kun does not need redeeming, Konoha was in the wrong for what they did to him. Konoha has made some mistakes in the past, but Sakura tried to defend but was cut off. A lot of crimes have been committed for the good of Konoha since its founding. Naruto-kun's exile is just another thing added onto a very long list of crimes done by the village. Itachi interrupted. If Naruto-kun were to return to Konoha he would be executed for the good of Konoha just like me. He's nothing like you, Sakura snarled. Oh? Itachi raised an eyebrow and smirked. I believe you are mistaken, despite Konoha's attempts at controlling him and his strength Naruto-kun has grew much more powerful in such a short amount of time just like I did at his age. The Uchiha's features returned to normal as he asked, what would you do if Naruto-kun were to be captured by Konoha and sentenced to death? Surely you realize that is what will happen should he ever be captured by Konoha. Konoha wouldn't. What would you do? Itachi asked again cutting her off. Sakura gulped and looked away. I don't know. I pray you find the answer because if you do not then Konoha will burn and everything I have worked for will have been for nothing, Itachi told her. Flashback no jutsu end. What should I do? Sakura continued to cry as the sun finally set on the horizon. She cried all night. The sound of an explosion echoed throughout the village hidden in the leaves. Hada Kakashi looked up at that and snapped his head in the direction that the sound originated. Smoke blew up into the blue daytime sky and he narrowed his only visible eye when he saw it. I'd better check it out. He thought before he took off towards the blast. He landed on the rooftop of a building and looked down at the street below. Standing there in the center of the street were two figures who wore black cloaks covered in red clouds, which he immediately identified as Akatsuki agents. What are Akatsuki doing here? Naruto's no longer in Konoha, so why would they openly attack us like this? Kakashi asked in thought as he uncovered his Sharingan. He focused in on the two and his eyes widened as he saw their eyes, those eyes that must be the Rinnegan Pin. One of the two tore off its cloak revealing its body. Kakashi looked on surprised as he saw the figure had 6 arms, 3 faces and a long razor blade tail sprouting from its back. The main pain stood back as several more Konoha Chunin and Jonin jumped in to face them. The scorpion-like pain lunged at the oncoming ninja and proceeded to cut them down as they came. What are they going here? This massacre makes no sense I have to stop him them the copy nin as he made several hand seals. Rai Bunshin no Jutsu, another Kakashi appeared at his side and the two jumped down to face the Akatsuki agents. Eva immediately took notice of Kakashi and his clone and sent Asura to intercept. Asura aimed his tail to pierce the original Kakashi, but the clone jumped in the way. Diva's eyes narrowed as the clone exploded in a massive blast of electricity which stunned Asura. "Urkiri," Kakashi called out as he slashed through the Asura path like it was made of butter with a fist covered in electricity. At Kakashi he created a plan to neutralize the Asura path from just one glance. Impressive Pain thought as he saw the copy nin streaking towards him with the same lightning-covered hand which sounded frighteningly like the chirping of 1,000 birds. Autumn Kakashi thought as he got within range for a strike. Things didn't go as planned though. "Shinra Tensei," Diva whispered. There was a sudden crack, followed by the sound of an explosion, as Kakashi and everything else within a 10-meter radius was sent hurling away from the Diva path. "What was that?" "That wasn't a shockwave," the copy nin asked in thought as he slammed hard through the wall of destroyed building. He stood up in the rubble and kept his attention on the Diva path, who hadn't moved since he last saw him. "It felt like I was being pulled backwards by some invisible force." "Uchius no Jutsu," he heard the faint whisper, and his eyes widened as he felt the large charge of chakra. He took one look up before he jumped back just in time to dodge the large centipede that landed crash down on where he had been moments ago. Standing atop the monstrosity was another figure, but this time it looked like a young girl with the same Rinnegan for eyes. Animal Path's eyes bore down on him as the centipede moved to assault the copy nin. "This isn't good. Did Jiraiya-sama really fight 6 of these things?" Kakashi asked in thought as he saw the summon approach at a frightening speed, all the while destroying everything at its path. "Ukashima." A blur of pink filled his vision, and when it cleared he saw that the giant centipede had been sent flying backwards. It crashed into the wall beside Diva as Animal dropped down beside him. Kakashi looked to his side when he saw another blur of pink, and his eyes widened slightly in surprise at seeing who it was. "Sakura?" he asked, seeing her keep her eyes on the centipede she had just hit. "You shouldn't be here," he told her. "I know, I was on my way to the hospital when I saw the things charging at you." "What the hell's going on anyways?" asked the pink-haired Chunin. "I'm not sure why they're here though. I think they're after Naruto," Kakashi stated while keeping his attention on the multi-man Akatsuki member. "Naruto?" Sakura asked, not getting it. "Think about it, Naruto loves Konoha even if he can't return here willingly without getting into trouble. Attacking Konoha is a sure way to get his attention," Kakashi explained. "You mean they're using us?" asked a pink-haired Chunin in a near shout. Kakashi nodded in reply, "I believe so." "Sakura, I want you go the hospital right now. I'll handle things here. You're needed there especially with the increasing casualties from Pain's attack." Sakura nodded and waved as she jumped away. "Good luck." Kakashi nodded grimly as he saw the main Pain hold up his open hand towards him. "Now what?" "Bansho Tenin," Diva said as Kakashi suddenly felt himself being pulled towards the 3 Pains. "He can attract things as well now. I get it, he's manipulating gravity." The copy nin realized in thought as he threw out a wire which grabbed hold of the nearby post, thus keeping him from falling towards Pain. A fully repaired Asura path stepped forward and brought his arm up towards where Kakashi now stood, just as the giant centipede disappeared in a poof of smoke. "Now what?" "Heiwan no Hiya," came the whisper just as Asura's fist shot towards the copy nin. "This can't be good," Kakashi thought as he jumped to avoid the hit. Rebuild seemed to collapse as the fist slammed into the ground where Kakashi stood a moment ago. Note to self. Avoid that at all cost. "Uchius no Jutsu," Animal said as she summoned what looked like a giant rhino. "Not again," Kakashi thought as he jumped to avoid the oncoming force of nature. Just then Asura appeared behind him. When did he get so close? The scorpion-like Pain grabbed him with one of its many hands and made to pierce him with its tail. "Damn, he's got me." "Futen." Hein, there was a blur of black and white as the hand which held Kakashi was suddenly cut clean off of Asura's body. Asura pulled away just in time to dodge a large red ball of fire, which impacted where he stood a moment ago. "Kaiten." Kikakyu no Jutsu. Just then Kakashi saw Asuma and Abisu drop down beside him as the Asura path regrouped with the others. Kakashi sighed in relief at seeing the reinforcements and turned his attention back to the Akatsuki members. "Thank God we're not too late," Asuma said. "You don't look too good, Kakashi," Abisu commented seeing the copy nin's condition. "This guy is strong. I don't know how Jiraiya-sama could have fought 6 of them like this," Kakashi said as he shook himself trying to calm down. "I don't think we should drag this out," the smoking Jonin said as he started making hand seals and he exhaled a large black cloud of smoke at the Akatsuki members. "Kaiten." Heisuke Asuma exclaimed as he tossed the cigarette he was smoking a moment ago into the cloud. "Shinra Tensei." But just as the cigarette ignited the cloud it was suddenly dispersed in a deafening explosion and left the 3 Pains unharmed. "What did he just do?" Asuma asked, narrowing his eyes at where his jutsu was used a moment ago. "It's the main body's jutsu, he can control gravity to some extent," Kakashi answered. He then continued while not taking his eyes off of the 3 bodies, "It seems he is able to use it for both offensive and defensive strategies. Watch out." Asuma shouted as one of Asura's arms seemed to open and launched a volley of medium-sized missile-like projectiles at them. The 3 Jonin jumped out of the way, but the missiles seemed to track them. "I have to dodge." Explosions littered the streets, creating secondary explosions through several buildings, causing them to collapse. Asuma and Abisu landed on the upturned ground and tried to balance themselves again. Just then they heard the distinguished thuds of a large creature barreling at them and turned just in time to avoid Pain's summoned rhino, which was trying to run them over. When Abisu got his bearings again, he made several hand seals and exhaled a large ball of fire at the rampaging creature, Kaiten. Dikakyu no Jutsu. The fireball hit its target, but the rhino appeared to just shrug off the attack like it was nothing. This is no ordinary summoned creature. He turned his attention back to the three bodies of Pain, or should I say two, where's the third one? He got his answer when he suddenly felt something sharp pierce his shoulder from behind. Just as quickly as the blade went in, it was pulled out and he fought the pain just enough to turn around. His assailant. The Diva Path grabbed him by the neck and lifted him off his feet with shoulders still bleeding. Diva stared at him for a few moments before turning his attention on Asuma. Damn it, the smoker gritted under his breath and dashed for while channeling chakra into his two knives. Futen. Hein, he said as he made to slash the main Pain. Diva however saw it coming and lifted his unoccupied arm up towards his attacker and whispered, "Shinra Tensei," Asuma's eyes in surprise as he was sent flying backward. He crashed hard into a patch of uplifted ground with a deafening explosion filling the air. Impressive, but you are simply not good enough. Diva looked around searching for the last of the three Jonin, but found no one. Where is the copy nin? I know he was here a moment ago. Berkiri. Animal turned quickly as she heard the shout. The moment she did, however, she was suddenly cut down with a fist encased in electricity. That's one down. The rhino disappeared in a poof of smoke thanks to its summoner's defeat, and when he saw this, Kakashi quickly turned his attention towards the Diva Path and launched a dog made of lighting at him. Please work. Diva saw it coming and with seemingly little effort tossed the bleeding Abisu to the side. Yes, he dropped him. Shinra Tensei, Diva whispered as the lightning hound dissipated into the air just as it drew near him. Pain. Enden. Kakashi called out as he exhaled a large stream of fire at the main Pain. Diva dodged to the side, but Kakashi was already in motion and make hand seals as he went. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 3 shadow clones appeared at his side, one charged straight at Diva, other charged at Asura, and the last dashed towards where Abisu was tossed to. While this happened, the real Kakashi pushed a massive amount of chakra into his feet and jumped high into the air, which was unnoticed by the two Pains. The 2 clones that were sent to confront the 2 Pains were easily dispatched within moments however, but Kakashi didn't care as he touched back down right behind Diva. Berkiri, Kakashi whispered as he lunged to pierce the Diva Path, knowing that Pain hadn't realized he was there. However, before the attack connected, Diva ducked forward to avoid the attack without even looking at it or him. What? How did he know I was there or that I was attacking him like that? That's when he caught sight of Asura standing off to the side staring at him intently. Can he see me using different bodies? Diva turned swiftly and pulled out one of his chakra disruption blades transmitters. Kakashi didn't have time to react as he suddenly felt the weapon pierce his shoulder and he was pushed back up against a wall. He gritted his teeth in pain and when he channeled a bit of chakra to free himself, he suddenly felt very cold and could see a pair of shadowed Rinnegan eyes in his vision. What is he doing to me? Kakashi thought as he struggled but felt more of his strength leaving him with every passing second. Diva suddenly pulled the blade out and stepped back quickly. Now what? Kakashi slumped to the ground and looked up only for his eyes to widen as he saw that Pain's open palmed arm was extended towards him. Oh no. Shinra Tensei. Pain flooded the copy nin's body as he felt every bone he had crack under the pressure of the attack he was hit with. The ground and the wall he was lying against crumbled under the force of the attack and after a moment of silence, Pain took a moment to look over his handiwork. Midori eyes him. Pain heard the whisper at the last second and dodged to the side just as a long thin blade of lightning came down on where he stood a moment ago. Diva turned slowly looking bored at the newcomer. Who are you? Uchiha Sasuke, the newcomer answered simply as he activated his Sharingan. Pain raised an eyebrow slightly. Oh, and what might the brother of Uchiha Itachi be doing in Konoha? Sasuke's eyes flashed at Itachi's name as he glared at the Akatsuki agent. I do not have to explain myself to you. Diva smirked in amusement. You wish to fight me, then come. I wonder how you will compare to your brother. I did defeat him once a very long time ago when he had first joined Akatsuki. H.N. Sasuke grunted as his eyes seemed to morph slightly. Mangekyo Sharingan, he whispered as his eyes changed. The Mangekyo Sharingan. Ha, clearly Itachi left you something after all, Pain stated upon seeing the dangerous red eyes. Tsukiyomi, Sasuke whispered as the two locked eyes. I have you now, he whispered as he unsheathed the Kusanagi sword. He slowly stepped forward seeing that Diva wasn't moving, but stopped when he saw that even after the time had expired, that he still hadn't moved. Diva didn't even look fatigued, it was almost like he hadn't been hit by it at all. Sasuke narrowed his eyes for a moment before they widened in realization. Asura appeared from behind him and he jumped to the side, narrowly dodging the long razor-like tail that came at him. Sasuke stopped a few feet away and asked in thought, I know I caught him at Tsukiyomi, so why didn't it crush him mentally? You appear confused, the main pain stated observing the seemingly emotionless face of Sasuke. Your ocular genjutsu will not work on me Uchiha, I am God. I am everywhere, not just in your sight, Diva said with his eyes seeming to bear down upon him. Sasuke glanced between the two pains and thought, he's not one man. That's why Tsukiyomi was ineffective, because he is 6 different people. Just then Asura held out his second right arm at Sasuke, and it suddenly opened like it was some kind of machine on the inside. Now what? A large number of missiles launched from his arm and homed in on Sasuke's position, HN. The Uchiha watched as they drew near and suddenly threw a volley of senbon needles at the oncoming projectiles, piercing them in their noses. Chidori senbon, the missiles seemed to spark for a second, before they all crashed harmlessly all around Sasuke's position. You will have to do better than that if you wish to defeat a member of the Uchiha clan. Eva stared at him seemingly bored. I will admit that you have potential, but compared to Itachi, you aren't even close to his level. Sasuke's face shifted into a glare as he continued, I wonder how he could have lost to you, when the gap in your skills is so great. Flashback no jutsu begin. As the last Uchiha I can return to Konoha whenever I want, and when I return, I will be granted amnesty for my actions, because I have killed both Orochimaru and Itachi. Sasuke answered looking bored, but the look in his eyes made him look smug. Naruto remained silent and let him go before taking a step back and grinning down at him, knowing the perfect way to take him down a peg or two. And yet you couldn't kill Itachi could you? Naruto asked seeing Sasuke lose his smirk. I did kill Itachi, I watched as he died, Sasuke narrowed his eyes. But you didn't kill him did you? He dropped dead before you could avenge your loving family. Naruto watched as Sasuke tried to leap out of the chair, but the restraints kept him pinned. Don't you dare insult my family dope, I know I killed Itachi because he was exhausted. The Uchiha snarled at him. Actually Itachi died because his illness finally caught up with him. That stopped Sasuke's rant in its tracks. What illness? Sasuke asked narrowing his eyes further. Apparently Itachi had been suffering from some kind of illness for the past 8 years, and it finally caught up with him during his fight with you. Naruto answered. Flashback no jutsu end. Shut up, Sasuke spat out in a snarl. Eva smirked at seeing this reaction and asked, oh and why may I ask should I do that? Is it perhaps that you didn't kill Itachi? We recovered his body and I must say I was very surprised to see that he was gravely ill. Shut up. Sasuke shouted as his Mangekyo Sharingan began to spin wildly. Amaterasu, he whispered as he unleashed a massive blast of black flames at the Diva path, which blanketed the entire area around them. Shinra Tensei. The black flames were suddenly and violently snuffed out by the force of gravity. Diva stood seemingly unharmed and staring towards him with a neutral expression on his face. What kind of jutsu was that? It cancelled out Amaterasu like it was nothing. Why couldn't I copy that jutsu? Is it a part of the Rinnegan? Sasuke's face remained emotionless, but inside he couldn't help but feel angered at seeing Pain standing there acting like he was nothing. Give up, you are no match for Pain. You are no match for God, Diva spoke with his voice echoing across the street. This only seemed to anger the Uchiha more who then started making numerous hand seals. I don't have much chakra left but I won't let him humiliate me or my clan like this. He took a deep breath and brought his hand up to his mouth in the shape of a no, Kaiten. Goryuken no Jutsu. Pain raised an eyebrow at seeing his opponent breath out 2 large dragon heads of fire towards the sky. Why is he launching them up at the sky? I am over here so why would he do something like this? The smirk graced Sasuke's face as he narrowed his eyes at the Diva path. What I just did was use a jutsu specifically designed to create a lightning storm by heating up the atmosphere itself. When this happens the natural lightning in the area becomes concentrated and when used as a Raiten jutsu, it becomes unavoidable and deadly. This is an S-rank jutsu from Kumo Hanzo used it on me if I remember correctly during our battle, but he never told me where he learned it from. It's only taught to a select few, so how does this child know it? Pain asked in thought as he saw Sasuke channeling lightning chakra into his hand. Raiten. Kirin. Shinra Tensei. Suddenly a large dog-like monster made of lightning shot down from the sky and crashed down on where the 2 Pains were standing with a loud roar. But just as suddenly as it appeared it disappeared in as if it were blown away by some unknown force. Both Pains stood in the center of the newly formed crater seemingly unharmed, no not unharmed, they weren't even scratched. Now do you see how useless it is to stand against us? Diva asked and jumped high into the air above the village. Now what's he doing? Sasuke asked in thought until he saw Asura's head appear to split open, revealing some kind of cannon on its scalp. It started to glow a bright green and Sasuke's eyes widened as he dropped down to the ground. Susanoo. Buildings were knocked down by the force of the large multi-directional green flames Asura unleashed in every direction. The force of the blast was heard across the entire village and after a moment silence reigned across the battlefield. From the smoke Sasuke stood encased in a large spirit which resembled a Yamabushi. In its hand were a massive shield and sword which Pain identified immediately. Those are the Totsuka no Tsurugi and the Yata no Kagami, the weapons of the Rikiden Sennin. Pain narrowed his eyes upon seeing them. Sasuke smirked as he held out his hand and the spirit brought its sword up. The sword suddenly swung down on where Diva was standing and seemed to slash a long line of destruction for several square blocks. Diva emerged from the smoke and held out both of his hand towards where Sasuke stood. Gyuten. Rapusho, Diva whispered as two blazing white arrows of wind shot out from his fists. They splashed harmlessly across form of the spirit, impressive, but his reaction time is too slow. When I faced Itachi, he counterattacked almost immediately and never gave me an opening to attack. Behold the might of the Uchiha clan, Sasuke said with a smirk, seeing that Pain's attack had little effect. Arrogant little child, let me show you the might of God, Diva said as he brought up his arm toward Sasuke. Shinra Tensei, he whispered as a sudden blast of gravity hit the Uchiha inside the spirit barrier. How did he? Sasuke tried to think as the Yamabushi seemed to dissolve, and after a moment he coughed up some blood onto the uplifted ground. He stood back up but was unprepared for the quick-moving Asura who appeared in front of him and slammed him into the ground face first. He tried to struggle, but he couldn't move once Diva had stabbed his chakra disruption blades into numerous sections of the Uchiha's body. I expected more from an Uchiha. This is very disappointing, Pain told him as the last of Sasuke's chakra was drained from his body. Just then he found himself unable to move either of his bodies, and when his eyes looked down, he noticed his shadow was laced in chakra. It appears more company has arrived. Hagime no Jutsu success, Shikamaru said from behind the two Pains. Just then 9 figures appeared in beside them in a collection of blurs. These new arrivals were Guy, Lee, Niji, Tenten, Ino, Chaoji, Kiba, Hinata and Shino. Almost immediately Niji and Lee destroyed the chakra disruption blades littering Sasuke's form and carried him away from the two Pains before setting him down against one of the destroyed walls. Tenten, Ino and Chaoji went over to check Kakashi, Asuma and Ibisu respectively. How are they doing? Shikamaru asked in a shout over his shoulder while not keeping his eyes off of the Akatsuki members. Kakashi-sensei is still alive though barely, so is Asuma-sensei, but Ibisu-sensei is he hurt Ino trail off at the end. You're going to pay for this, the Nara said to Pain. Why should I? I am merely working towards bringing this world true peace, Diva asked seemingly not caring that he was currently trapped. Peace? Peace? Kiba asked clearly furious. He waved his hand out to the sides at the devastation all around them. Take a look around. How can you call this peace? You cannot understand, Diva said, which only angered him more. Enough of this, guys, kill him now, Shikamaru said as an order. I don't think so, Diva said as Asura's head split open again revealing its fully charged green cannon. The one left standing shall be justice and peace, it fired. They never stood a chance. So that's it for today guys, I hope did you enjoyed this video. If you do please leave a like, share and subscribe, thanks for watching.